Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss 4 critical diagrams in order to improve your chess. Today's topic is opposite side castle attack and we are going to check out the same theme, which is how to attack the opponent's king. All the 4 diagrams is simply going to be crazy, and in order to improve your game you must watch this video. So I don't want to waste any further time, so let's quickly jump into the video. So we have the first diagram on the board. This time we are playing with the white pieces, and I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how will you try to continue the position if you are playing with the white pieces? Okay, so first of all, what's happening in this position? So black has done the short side castle, whereas we have done the long side castle. So if you guys found out the move g4, that's the best move, congratulations. And it's pretty obvious, this should be in your intuition, because basically you have both the guys have done the opposite side castle, so we do want to attack the opponent side castle king. So it's the best way to attack the opponent king whenever just by pushing up the pawns. So playing g4, because the pawn is on f3 protected by the f3 pawn. So now you can play the move h4, h5, g5, and it's the best way to attack whenever you have done the opposite side castle. That's the way you must attack. So yeah, this was the first diagram, to simply attack on the opposite side castle king just by throwing up the pawns. So this was the first diagram. So now let's move on to the second diagram. Okay, so we have the second diagram on our board. Again, we are playing with the white pieces, and again I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how will you try to continue the position if you are playing with the white pieces? Okay, so what's happening again? We have done the long side castle, whereas our opponent has done the short side castle. So if you guys found the move g4, yep, that's the best move, that's the best way to attack. After g4, black continues with a6, trying to play b5, trying to again push up the pawns on the queen side. We play g5, and it's a very interesting move. Definitely h4 is also a move, but g5 basically is a move that forces things. After g5, black is having two options to play knight e8 or knight to h5. If knight to h5, this time we play the move knight to e2. And now what's happening? Black cannot capture g5 pawn because the bishop is already protecting it. And after knight e2, our idea is to simply play the move knight to g3. So if black tries to play b5, trying to push the pawns on the queen side, we play the move knight g3. And if you try to simply capture the knight, now I think white is already having the game under control after queen h2 is coming up and threatening mate. And if h6, we can simply capture the pawn. And I think it's practically already lost for black. And if you try to play g6, I already think it's already lost for black because of this simple bad pawn structure. Maybe knight d5, simply getting this pawn up, or maybe simply f4, queen e2, getting this pawn. It's already way better for white. So that's how it's winning. And the second way, after knight h5, you can do here is, you can even play the move f4. What's the idea in this position? After f4, the knight is actually stuck on h5. So we are going to play the move bishop to e2, simply capture up the knight. After b5, bishop e2, and the position is already way better for white. It's already winning. So that's how this position is winning. So black is kind of forced to play the move knight to e8. And now, how are you going to continue the position? Try to pause the video and try to think. h4. Yep, that's the move. If you guys found out the move f4, yep, it's the equal good, because the intention is simple. We want to push the pawns on the king side. So yep, h4, b5, and here we play the move h5, trying to push the h pawn. The reason we play h4 at the place of f4 here is there is a slight more difference, because after h4 we are pushing our rook pawn. So whenever this h pawn will ever get exchanged by the g pawn, we are having an open h5. So it's already practically, I would say, it's a good idea rather than pushing at the f pawn. So after h5, we have b4, and here we simply play the move knight to d5. And after knight g5, our knight is like already centralized, no real issues. Black plays a5, trying to push the queenside pawns. And here we already play the move g6, a very strong move, trying to open up the king side. And here, after g6, I would say the possession is already winning, because there is not much white can do. So like, if black captures here, we can already take the bishop, take stake, h6, queen h2 is coming, threatening mate, and you can't do much. And here, if black tries to capture with this, we can still capture this, and here queen d5 wins the rook. And if you try to capture the pawn, it's still winning after h6. You don't need to get surprised. You can even sack the bishop. It's still winning. So, like, back to the same topic as I said, whenever you are trying to attack, just get all your pieces into the game, and then you can simply try to sacrifice your pieces to get some potential good sacrifices, try to get some very crazy attacking chances, and eventually you are going to get a winning position. So that's how you can simply win the game. So yeah, that's how knight e8 is simply losing. The intention is simply push the pawn g4, g5, kick the knight, just try to keep attacking, and that is how you can simply win the game. So yep, this was the second diagram. So now let's move on to the third diagram. Okay, so we have the third diagram on our board. This time, it's a very crazy position. We are playing with the black pieces. And again, I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how are you going to continue the position if you're playing with the black pieces? Okay, so what's happening in this position? We have done the queen side castling, whereas our opponent has done the short side or the king side castling. And like, what's happening in this position? White's pawn has already reached b5 and a4, whereas we have already only pushed the pawn to g5. So the position practically looks like white is doing a very good job. So if you guys found out the move h5, yep, that's the move that comes naturally into our mind. The intention is pretty clear. We want to play the move g4. But guys, sadly, it's a bad move. Because after h5, you give white simply an upper hand of playing the move a5. And now you're going to realize that white is much faster in order to attack compared to our position. We want to play g4, whereas white can simply take. I know the position is still crazy. After many players are debating that after g4 takes, we can even take on f3. And here the position is not still so clear. After rook takes king b8, we are also throwing some great punches. So the position is already very complicated. It's true, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, but going back a bit, okay, at the place of pushing the pawn, you can still take. Many of the players are thinking we can simply take and even play the move g4. Still, it's the same. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. It's a very complicated idea where neither of the side is sure what's happening on the board. Instead of playing h5, as you know that if you try to play the move h5, g4, it's a bit slow compared to the white's attack. Can you try to play the move direct g4? And if you found this move, congratulations, it's the best move. The reason is quite simple. After g4, if g4 is completely losing because of bishop g2, and you lose the rook, and we can simply defend by queen b7, the queen side, and nothing is happening. Everything is pretty safe. So you can't really take with f pawn. You must take with the h pawn. And now this time, if you try to push the pawn, I don't think it's a good idea. And after gf3, we are the first one to open up the position, and we are getting your winning position. So white is forced to take with the h pawn, and in this position, now can we play the move h5? Can we? Because after h5, our idea is pretty clear. If white tries to push the pawn, we want to take hg4, and now our rook is already open. So after h5, if white takes the pawn, and I guess that's the only move, we can already take with the rook. And if after king to g1, trying to safeguard the king, going to g5, threatening mate in 1. You move the knight, trying to defend this pawn, but still, queen to e3 check. And now the game is lost. You can't enter on the h5 because of this rook check. I just need to move the knight and its mate. So you must block with the rook or the queen. If you try to block with either of the piece, I can still play the move knight into f3. And the game is checkmate. So you can't do much. It's a mate. So that's how you can simply win the game. And if you try to push the pawn instead, I can simply queen into g5, still threatening the same threat. And if you again try to move the knight, simply rook at g8, and now you can't really stop it. If rook g1, simply knight into f3. You can't capture it, so one move mate, and still unthreatening mate. The game is already collapsing. So that's how you must do it. I know that many of the players' idea is to play h5, and it's something like a random move g4 takes, and now you want to take. But can you simply make this direct work? Like g4 takes, and now it's directly working because now white is not having the option of taking on g4 as white has already captured on g4. So it's a very good idea whenever you know that your attack is much slow compared to the white's attack. So try to make the attack faster, like by doing some sacrifices, by simply pushing up the g pawns like this. So this was the third position, very interesting one. So now let's move on to the final diagram of the day, the fourth position. Okay, so this time we have the fourth position on our board. This time we are playing with the white pieces, and I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how are you going to continue the position if you are playing with the white pieces? Okay, so what's happening in this position? Black has done the short side castling, whereas we have done the long side castling. So black has got all his pieces on the queen side already, and black is pretty ready to play the move g5, g4, and try to take on f3. The rook is opened up. He can even sack the rook on g2 in the future. And whereas our pawns are still on f2, g2, and h3. So if you guys played the move g4, not the best move. It's a bad move because after g4, already b5. And if you try to keep attacking with the pawns, g4. Sorry, b4. And your pawns are still on the fourth rank, whereas opponent attacks have been reached. So if you try to play anything else, it's completely losing. I think you guys can also feel it. It's already losing. So not the best idea. So whenever you know that your pawn push attack is not going to work, try to attack with the pieces. Knight to f4. If you guys found out the move, congratulations, bravo, this is the best move. What's the idea of knight f4? We are trying to get the maximum pieces near the opponent's king. Now knight f4, what is the idea? I want to get my stronger piece into the attack via queen h5 or maybe queen g4. Second, I'm going to make a rook lift via rook e3, rook g3 and trying to do some attacks. That's the best practical choice that white can do. After knight f4, let's check b5. This time, queen to h5. Very strong move, threatening mate in 1. If you try to play something like h6, rook e3, b5, b4, rook to g3. We are already much faster. If b into c3, already we have a very strong move. Rook into g7, check. Sacrificing the rook and finding out the knight into e6, check. A bit difficult, but very interesting. Pawn takes, queen check, it's mate. And another way to win is to simply play the move queen into h6. But here black is having some counter play, I would say. Rook into b2, check. King c1, and here black can take. And you must be careful not to take the rook or else it's going to be mate. So at the place of this, you must move the king to d1. And after rook d check, you must play king u1, and now you are safe off checks, and now you are winning the game. So yep, it's also winning, but yeah, rook g7 is basically finish off the game with this style. If the king moves, simply queen g4 check, and it's mate. So yep, this is how you can simply win the game. So this is what happens if black tries to play h6. So the only option black is having is to play the move g6, trying to hit the queen. But this time queen h6. And now what's happening? After queen h6, black plays b4. And now I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how are you going to continue the position if you're playing with the white pieces? Okay, so maybe many of you guys thought of the move h4. It's completely losing because of b into c3. And the position is losing after like if pawn push, rook into b2 check, king c1, we can simply take off, king d1, rook d2 check, and you are not having the king u1 square. So it's already lost. So if you guys found out the move knight to h5, bravo, that's the best move. Knight h5, basically we are threatening mate in 1. Even knight to f6 is winning up. So black is forced to capture the knight, but this time queen into h7 is simply game over, simply capturing the pawn. The black king is simply got checkmated and the game is over. So this is how you can simply checkmate the black king. So this was the fourth diagram, very crazy one. You already know that your opponent's attack is much faster. He got all his pawns, all his pieces lined up on the queen side. You know that your pawn storm is much slower compared to your opponent. So try to play with the pieces. Try to get your pieces into the game. Try to mate your opponent. That's the best practical choice that you can do. So this was the fourth diagram, very crazy one. And I hope that all these 4 diagrams might have helped you to improve your game. If it did, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you're new to our channel. Because it's free for you, but it helps us to motivate to make videos like this. Many more topics are remaining, very interesting ones. I don't want to waste any further time. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess.